back there. Any comment?
Sherrone, with regards to the offensive decision making, I'm thinking, 4th and short in the red zone and either, kicking field goals instead of going for it or punting when you're in field goal range, just the overall thought process.
Yeah, I mean, the early one, it was 4th and 2. And it was on the 40-yard line, so, those are situations, yeah, you can kick the field goal, but when you can pin them deep like we did in the 5-yard line, it's a long field for any offense to execute, and they went 4 plays and had to punt it. So for us, there's all those type of decisions that you got to make, and there's an analytics piece of it, but there's also a feeling of how you feel in the game in those certain situations of how the defense is playing and what you're doing. So it's a collective thought process when we do that for sure.
And you get the analytics answer.
Oh yeah, you get the analytics answer in real time. Yeah, this says 4th or 2, 4th or 1 or better, 4th or 4 or better, and sometimes when it says 4th or 5 or better, I'm like, I don't know about that one. It's a long distance at certain times, so usually just go with the gut.
On the left, Clayton.
I guess who's going to be the interim coach or coaches the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, we'll operate as a collective unit. Chip will handle the offense, Wink will handle the defense, JB will handle the special teams, but the overall operation, Coach Biff Poggi will stand in as the interim, and it'll be, it'll flow like normal. Obviously, I won't be on the sideline and be there, but how we handle game days with, Chip handling the offense and Wink handling the defense and JB handling the special teams will feel the same, and our players they'll be ready to go.
On the right here, Charles.
Yeah, can you update us on injuries from Barry, El Hadi, and Klein?
Yeah, Zeke, very mild lower body injury, so we'll see how he progresses through the week. But he looks good. He was jogging around on the sideline on the second half, but that was more precautionary to make sure nothing was wrong. Who else did you say? Gio. Gio, we'll see. Look, that's day to day, so we'll take a look at that and see how that looks. And what was the last one you asked? Marlon's looking better. So we'll see what he can do this week. I think he'll practice a little bit Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we'll go from there. Yep, thank you.
In the front right here, Aaron.
Rod Moore dressed finally?
Yeah.
Did he return this week?
Yeah, we think there's a good chance that Rod could play this week. So we've been very cautious with him. No one knows their body like Rod does, and he wanted to play in that game, believe me. And just the timeline of what we said and how we wanted to do it wasn't where we fit. So, but high probability that Rod Moore plays in the game on Saturday. But we'll see. We want to make sure the week goes. He feels right. There's nothing that goes on. There's no swelling or anything in his knee, and it's been good these past couple of weeks. So we'll just take it day by day with him.
Could you speak to Biff's just experience and your belief in him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's been in the program before. He was a huge help for me when I was the coordinator, online coach at first, and just a general feeling of how the program goes, of the knowledge of the players specifically was huge. And then, obviously his experience as a high school head coach, as a head coach, but just in general, his love for the players, importantly, his knowledge of everybody in our building, and keeping the cohesion in the building was huge. And I also wanted our coordinators to be able to do what they do, and continue their jobs as they go through the season, and let me come back and let there be no hiccups and not have to do anything extra. And I think that's going to be important so that they can do that at a high level.
Standing right here, Austin.
Sherrone, will you approach this week as if you were going to coach, or will you have Biff take on more in practice to prepare for that?
Yeah, I'll be here, so I'll be coaching. I'll be coaching hard. So this week's about the how. It's not necessarily the what. So we're going to really attack all the details. And he's always with me. He's always around me, so he's in all the meetings. He's right there by my side, so he sees it. He understands exactly how I feel. And obviously he's not me, but the players have a lot of respect for Biff, and they love Biff. They love being around Biff, so we'll continue to work in that direction.
In the back left, Joel.
So this is obviously not the first time you guys have had to go through game day a little bit differently. What's the most important thing you learned maybe from being the interim guy that's helped things go off without a hitch when you have to do this again?
Yeah, what I learned, a little bit different because I was calling plays and I was the coordinator then, but I think it's just you have to work together as a unit, and you can't try to stray away from the plan that you've talked about early in the week. So we're going to do that. We're going to stay together as a cohesive unit, as a team, as a family, and we'll continue to do that.
In the front left there, Ryan.
What are your plans for watching the game Saturday, and what type of response are you hoping from your group against the CMU team?
Yeah, as far as how I'm going to watch the game, I have no idea yet. I haven't even thought about it. But I can imagine and guess, since I've already talked to half the team from after the game until now, that they're going to be fired up and ready to go. No pun intended for the Chips, but they'll be excited. They've all have voiced their opinions of how they feel about everything and what they want to do. And I continue to say, like, guys, you're not playing this game for me. You're not going to win it for me. Go win it for yourself. Go win it for Michigan and for the goals that you guys have set. So they'll be excited and ready to play.
And how different or similar would you say Grant Newsom's offensive line coaching style is compared to when you coached the position?
There's things that are similar because he was obviously with me throughout the time, but he's his own person, and I don't want him to be me. I want him to be himself, and he's definitely taken into his own and gotten better and better every day, and he continues to do that.
And back right there, Angelique.
Sherrone, why did you pick the first 2 games to coach versus these next 2, including the Big Ten?
It was a collective decision with us and me and Ward, and just making sure that, especially new team, new offense, new defensive people, all the things that when you have a new team, you want to have, especially I wanted to be there for that, to be there to keep that cohesion in the first couple games. So that was the main reason.
And you sort of mentioned Biff is always with you. What is his day-to-day typically?
Yeah, if I'm in a meeting, he's in a meeting. If I'm listening, taking notes, he's listening, taking notes. It's whether and I meet with everybody. I meet with the offense, I meet with the defense, I meet with the special teams, building the schedules. So he's always there with me, so understands how I operate and what I do on a daily basis. And on game days, he's with me. He doesn't hear what I hear because he doesn't have a headset normally. He will on game days. So he just understands how I work and how I operate.
Over on the left, Clayton.
Just a couple things. Will you be at the hotel until 11:50?
I'll be there for a while, and then I'll probably be here until I can be. So.
And then, how do you think Jaden Sanders stepped in, tough position for a freshman, and
Yeah.
overall your cornerback depth? How do you feel about that?
You know what? I was pretty proud of those guys. Zeke had the one double move, and then we had to jump off a penalty, and they threw the deep one, and we didn't reroute it, but. Overall, those guys played really well, especially Jaden Sanders for a freshman. He came in the fourth quarter and never even noticed him. Made a couple of tackles. So pretty proud of what they did. It'd be good to get Shamari Earls back this week, and look like possibly get him and Caleb Anderson back this week. So that'll be huge for the corner depth. But Jair Hill is playing as good as he's ever played. It feels like he's playing at a great level, and he's practiced that way. Zeke's definitely stepping up, and then having guys like. Jaden come in and getting JoJo back, that's going to be huge for our depth.
Stay on the left, Chris.
Watching the film on the offensive line, was it physical? Was it assignments? What went wrong on Saturday?
It was consistency, because there's times where there's huge holes, there's times where there's movement at the line of scrimmage, and there's times where there's things that are leaky and loose, and it's got to be consistent. When you play 5 or you play 7 offensive linemen, you've got to have consistency. And there's some things that I thought we could have did, and we've talked about as a staff to come back to that could have combated their defense. And it's a collective thing. It's not just the players, it's not just the coaches, it's everybody together. And we'll continue to work forward to make sure we clean all that stuff up.
Back left, Alejandro.
When you've got a new quarterback and some new offensive line pieces, how do you find the right balance between protecting them versus aggression, and do you feel like you found that right balance against Oklahoma?
Yeah, I don't think we ever think you find the right balance all the time. You got to continue to work to be perfect at that, and we look at everything every single game to see whether you win a game by 30 or you lose a game by 8 or 9, whatever it is. You're always looking to get better. So I think there's a piece where we got to be, we'll be more aggressive in every phase to help ourselves, but we're not really going to be protecting anybody. We want to protect the quarterback, but as far as the guys on our field, when we put them on the field, we trust them to do their job. So we got to continue to just put them in great positions to do that.
Over here on the right, Austin.
Sherrone, I don't know if you watched the NFL game last night, but a couple quarterbacks in that game who made a lot of plays with their legs. Do you think Bryce does he have that in his game, and how comfortable are you like turning that part of his game loose?
Yeah, he does. He does. We will at some point. Just you run your quarterback, you better have two. And I've always believed that. Even did that with JJ. JJ wanted to run every game, and I was like, no, you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get hurt, or something. So we will, and I think there's parts in that we tried to in that game. They just were pretty good at not letting us because they didn't want him to run. And I think there's ways we can get him to run in different ways and make sure he's protected. So we'll work that as we go game by game and have a strategy for that.
Front left, Ryan.
What do you think Bryce was able to learn from that first road experience against in a tough environment?
Yeah, I think one that the moment isn't too big because was never really panic. The kid kept his poise for a freshman to be in that environment. I mean, there was never the wide-eyed look or like it's too big the moment. So understand that he can do it, but also just to trust his self and trust the reads and trust the things. And you don't always have to go make a play. Like your God-given ability, you're going to make a play. He made some tremendous plays. He rolls to the right on a scramble and darts it to McCulley. Like it's a tremendous play. He does things a lot that are tremendous plays. The throw that he made to McCulley when he went up and got it. He's just got to continue to go through his progressions and trust it.
On the left, Anthony.
Well, speaking of McCulley, when you guys added him, you said you wanted to add that Nico Collins type of dimension back to the offense. How much more of that would you like to see, given that you saw it in a game on Saturday?
Yeah, continue to do it even more. We will continue to implement that and implement him, implement Channing and Samaj as much as we can, and Andrew Marsh, guys like that. Keep putting them in a position to be successful and do different things to do that. So we'll definitely keep adding that to the attack.
On the right, Tony.
I think it's sort of asked you about this after the game, but I think it's something like 51 of the 56 running back touches this year have not gone for like an explosive or a touchdown. I guess specifically, other than like consistency or everyone acting as one, I guess what needs to happen to fix that?
Yeah, I mean, when you have 4 explosives, that's pretty good. But when those runs are 5, 6, that's what the run game is. It's 3, it's 4, it's 5. Then all of a sudden you got a 50. So we'll get to the 10s. We'll get to those. I can remember back when I was coaching the O-line, there was times where we only had 130 yards rushing, and it was a 10-yard, it was a 10-yard, it was a 5-yard, and then people said, well, you're not getting the 50. So I'm like, well, sometimes you don't, So it just works in different phases, and we have to figure out how we can get those, and that's what we're working towards.
So would you say you're happy with the way the run game is operating right now?
I'm never happy with how it is, and we could unless we rush for 400 yards, I'm not going to be happy. So we're getting better, and there's definitely things we got to clean up, but we're trending in the right direction.
Good time for a few more. I see your pen, Angelique.
My pen is.
Pen.
Sure, it's too early, obviously, to know the identity. What do you want the identity of this offense to be?
Yeah, it is too early, but going to be violent, going to be physical, want to be explosive. So we're creating explosive runs and want more, want to create more explosive passes. We will do that, but just consistent as we go through every single game, and let the players just trust themselves and let it loose, have fun. And I think they'll do that as we go through the week.
On the right here, Zach.
With the linebacker depth and Jay-Sean being out for the first half, do you feel like having those 4 starters all the time has really kind of come to fruition?
Yeah, it has. Because you don't blink when any of those guys are in there, whether it's Ernie or Jay-Sean or Jimmy or Cole. Like they're in there, you're like, okay, all right, who's going to make a play? So I think it's been awesome to watch those guys play, and to watch a guy like Troy Bowles get in there in special teams and make plays, and young Chase Taylor, and so like it's that group is really deep, and Coach BJ has done an excellent job of developing those guys, and they're as deep as you can see in college football.
On the left, Ryan.
How hands-on are you still with the coaching the offensive line, and how much more is that compared to maybe other position groups?
I mean, I dive in there once or twice a practice to make sure I've got my eyes on the whole offense, but obviously being with the O-line, I've have a lot of experience with that. So try to, as much as I can, be involved in it. But when you're the head coach, you try to look at everything. So I'll dive more back into it. But I trust Grant, trust Coach Castillo, trust Coach Gilbert, Coach Rook to do their jobs.
Front right here, Sam.
Did you talk to Zavada after the missed kick, and what do you sort of tell an accomplished guy like that?
Yeah, I don't talk to Zavada. Nope. I'm not a kicker. I've never been a kicker, and I can imagine the mindset of what happens in that moment, that you can think a whole bunch of different things, and the last thing you need is somebody ripping you or yelling at you. I just looked at him, and I went like this, and he looked back, and that was it. So I let JB handle that. He's a phenomenal kicker. He misses very little in practice and in games, so I have full trust in him that he recover. And we always talk about Fido, forget it and drive on. So people are going to make mistakes. People are going to make missed assignments, and that was one that nobody wants to make that kick more than Zavada. So me telling him, hey, go make that kick would not be anything helpful. So, and I have no coaching points to tell him how to make the kick. So I just let him handle it, and he recovered from it.
Last two questions, we'll go Joel and then Aaron.
Yes, you may have been asked about this after the game, but when Justice and Bryce get into it a little on the sidelines, like it gets caught on the cameras, and there's not really any context for what happens afterwards. What do you learn about the way those guys handle that in the moments or even the days afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, one, in the moment, that's competitiveness. They both want to be right. They both want the team to be successful. And, I mean, what people didn't talk about is when Justice scored the touchdown, who was with him in the end zone celebrating? It was Bryce, and they were loving each other, dapping each other up. So, and then yesterday they were in here watching film together, talking. So that happens, and you don't want that to happen on the sideline at all. And then it was squashed immediately, and then obviously it was squashed when you saw them celebrating together. So that's a competitive piece that most competitors have. And as a group and as a team, those guys stuck together, and to see them in here yesterday working was a huge piece.
Last question, Aaron.
What's Mikey's team status? Is he healthy to play, or where's he at?
Yeah, Mikey's doing really good. He's been practicing, doing all the throws. He's actually worked a lot with, he's worked on offense, and then he's worked as a scout team guy to help with looks. So he's full go, ready to go.
Is Jane Davis still the number 2 though?
Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.